Only 0.3% in the entire world have completed this, and you will definitely be surprised at some of these statistics. We have a ton of new tools that'll help you with current content and getting ready for Season 1. We also got a ton of new details on the Season 1 mechanic, and even some new Battle Pass details. We also got to briefly talk about some of the issues that players are encountering as well as some of the feedback. There's a ton to talk about. What's up, World Tripper? Back in the video, we're checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so first up, let's jump into some of the seasonal mechanical stuff, then we'll go into some of the tools, and then we'll brief on everything else. So we actually got a little diagram and an infograph here that showcases all the different Malignant Heart types and what their various powers might drop. So the first one is Vicious Hearts. This is an offensive power that drops from vicious, malignant monsters. It can also be crafted, just as all of these can. These can all be crafted, seemingly. We do have the Brutal Heart. It's a defensive power. This time it drops from brutal, malignant monsters. Again, can also be crafted as well as the rest of these. Next up, we have one that's called Devious Heart. This is a utility power, and again, it drops from devious, malignant monsters. So, of course, the name kind of follows what it's going to drop from. If it's a devious, it'll drop from devious. You kind of get the gist. Last up, we have the Wrathful Heart, which is actually a superpower, and this drops from those wrathful malignant monsters. Again, all of these can be crafted as well if you can't get them from those specific monsters. I am curious of what some of the superpower ones might be, if those ones will be overutilized, although I think for Sork, a lot of it's going to be on defensive power. Unless they fix the kind of defensive that the Sork has, I really do think a lot of people are going to go into defensive power more so than offensive. We'll kind of have to wait and see and how the little gems play out and if they should even be used. A lot of the armor gems are basically a necessity. So can these replace the jewelry / armor gems? We'll have to wait and see. Now, a big PSA for Season 1, as I didn't even really know this either, also in regards to alts as well. But when you're at the Obel vendor and you're trading out for different gear pieces, if you want a specific rarity type, at least as far as sacred or ancestral goes, those have different drop points, or at least different points at what the vendor will carry them. So the vendor will only carry sacreds until level 53, and then ancestral will be there at level 73. So at 53 you can get the sacreds, and then at 73 you can get ancestral. So if you're just getting to world tier 4 at like 65 or even earlier, some people can do it way sooner at 61, they can defeat Elias. Some are even in the 50s, to be honest. So if you do get to world tier 4 and can actually handle world tier 4, you shouldn't bank on using your Obels until at least 73, or you shouldn't be expecting any ancestrals until then. You're probably gonna have to use them because you'll be maxed out, and then you can just vendor or try to get some legendaries. However, those are the two thresholds that you can get those type of items. And a further note, if you are on world tier 4, you can still get ancestral from regular drops, even if you're level 53 or whatever level you're there at. And that goes for world, legion events, as well as whisper chests, as well, as long as it's in the correct tier. Now we have another Diablo 4 tool that got released. I have a ton of my previous videos if you want to check those out, but I'll probably have most of them linked down below. This one is for trading specifically, and I've kind of been annoyed with the Discord, at least later when I was trading for items. People were like bidding on their own items. There was some weird stuff going on there, so I'm hoping that either a website or an in-game trade system can alleviate this. But yeah, so far there is a Diablo trade website, and this is diablotrade.gg. This looks pretty cool so far. It's got a nice UI layout and a ton of stuff here. They look like they're really going to back this one up. As people said here, I hope this one takes off, and because the Discord is just really, it's just not fun to interact with people on there. And of course, I hope they eventually remove the level requirement for gear. Seemingly there's no reason why the level requirement should ever scale with gear, especially for trading purposes. It kind of defeats it entirely. But a good tool for now. Hopefully Diablo 4 just kind of gets the trading scene in check. Now apparently for the Battle Pass, you won't need to get to level 100. So we have an article here on VG247. Basically said, don't worry, the Battle Pass won't be anywhere near as grindy as the climb to level 100. Although they did say that the average player would reach level 100 after 150 hours. And yeah, that's not really seemingly plausible, especially as a solo player. Maybe if you're like 4-man grinding dungeons the entire time. Most speedrunners were doing it barely at like 170 hours, 150 hours, and that was with them kind of fully grinding every day, every second. So they could still be wrong on that because it is around 200 hours for the average player, at least from what I've seen. We'll have to wait and see on how the battle pass is. I do have my concerns with the pay to win aspect there. I know a lot of people are saying, well, the battle pass can't be pay to win because you have to be a certain level to achieve those powers. However, what if the battle pass is really grindy, and even though they say it's not here, even though you reach level 100, but what if it is super grindy, and it is really hard to reach those later levels? If I'm level 60, and I can't get the power when I hit level 60, if someone else can pay to tier skip and get that power before me, well, that technically is pay to win. Maybe I'm not seeing it right, but that is kind of how I would envision that this could potentially be pay to win still. Or at least there could be some pay to win aspect, especially that they're putting power in the battle pass. Now, I don't believe that they declared at all if you can only skip the premium tiers and not the free tiers. However, if it is hard to level the battle pass, or there isn't like a major jump in the battle pass without using tier skips, and you have to reach a certain level to get that power, and I can pay to skip it, then there is some pay to win there. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I really don't know how it's going to work out eventually. There's a lot of people kind of brainstorming what will happen if it is pay to win. We'll have to wait and see. We have a post here about sorcerers, and I am a sorcerer main, so I'm going to go over it. Frost Nova requirement makes every sorcerer build feel too melee heavy. I 1000% agree. I really didn't want to play lightning because it was mostly a melee mage. If I'm going to play mage, I want to play range, and I'm sure some people want to play that melee combo. It's kind of fun, seemingly. However, no sorcerer should be forced into the melee aspect of it, and yeah, Frost Nova is a melee ability at this point. If you need to complete your altars, we also have a map here that will help you a lot, although I'm going to include one that I use to get the altars, as well as the Wowhead one, so you can kind of choose which one. This one wasn't out yet, and I still almost kind of prefer the one that I used, although one or two of the Lilith statues are kind of in a different location than the one that I used, so I will include both just in case. Now, as far as those stats goes, about 0.3% only completing this. 0.3% on Xbox at least have only completed to defeat Uber Lilith. Taking into account other game platforms like PlayStation as well as PC, it's probably around that for average, maybe a little bit higher on PC. The jarring statistic here, though, is that only 1.3% of players have reached level 100, and only 36% of players have completed the campaign. It's kind of insane to think that we've already been a month or so in, and only that many have completed the campaign, and that many have reached level 100. However, these stats are always usually very low. People usually pick up the game, play it to level 10 or 20, and then put it down. That especially happens on Xbox, as well as the console player games, and even on PC, realistically. I think even an example would be for like Sea of Thieves, where in Sea of Thieves, there was like only 50 or 60% of players have eaten a banana. It's like the first thing you do in the tutorial, so this really isn't like the best graph or best percentages to go off of, but it is still astounding that only 1% have reached level 100. Goes to show why the developers are not really focusing on endgame, which is super unfortunate. We had a tweet here from Alpha Wolf Gaming. Basically was asking about the scroll of escape is not triggering on the disconnect, and his character did sadly perish. And Adam Fletcher responded saying, we have said that this function hasn't made it into the game, but will be in Season 2. It's kind of nuts how the things are taking so long, especially just a simple like scroll of escape with disconnect. Maybe there's something more there, but yeah, features are taking way too long for this game to really push out like that. But that is about cover for today's video. If you like it, and subscribe. Until the next one. Deuces.